Hello everyone, I am Shreya Shane from Kolkata. Welcome to Science Prodigy. Today we will be continuing the previous part of unit and measurement of class 9. So previously we had done till the measurement of length and the basics part, which you can already find in the playlist of physics class 9 as well. The part 1 video is present there. Now, before I begin, I would like to tell you that I'll be providing the entire series of all the chapters in your class. So, for your benefit, make sure that you subscribe the channel so that you are totally getting all the chapters done in great detail along with the important questions. So, without any more delay, let's begin. So, we will be beginning with vernier caliper. So now, in general, what happens in a vernier caliper? We actually are able to measure length with much more accuracy and precision as compared to the measurement of length with any meter scale. It is solely because of the least count. If we see a least count of a meter scale, it is generally 1 millimeter or so. But in general, when we see the least count of a vernier caliper, it is 0.1 millimeter. That means vernier caliper helps in measuring a length with much more precision, with much more accuracy. So now the vernier caliper is designed in such a way that there is a main scale and a vernier scale. So vernier caliper basically consists of a main scale and a vernier scale. Now vernier scale is a movable scale which will move on the main scale. In general, 10 divisions of the vernier scale actually coincides with 9 divisions of the main scale. That means 1 division of the vernier scale is, by simple unitary method, it is 9 by 10 divisions of the main scale, which is 0.9 millimeter. So if I take a millimeter division scale, in general 1 division of the vernier scale is nothing but 0.9 millimeter. Now, as I have already written, you can see that the least count of a vernier caliper is 1 main scale division minus 1 vernier scale division. So right now we have already found that the vernier scale division is 1 vernier scale division is nothing but 0.9 millimeter, and for 1 main scale division it is 1 millimeter. So basically the least count of a vernier caliper then turns out to be 1 minus 0.9 millimeter, which is 0.1 millimeter. So this is the least count of a vernier scale, and due to this least count only, we find that the vernier scale is able to measure length with much more accuracy and precision as compared to any ordinary meter scale, because its least count is lesser as compared to that of an ordinary meter scale. The least count of a vernier caliper is 0.1 millimeter. So now, how do we measure the length using a vernier scale? So certain things need to be kept in mind while measuring the length using a vernier scale. First of all, I will be talking with the measurement of length, where we are considering that there is no zero error. Without any zero error, how do we measure the length? It is very simple. So no zero error criteria is where we are having no zero error and the entire mark, the zero mark of the vernier scale totally coincides with the zero mark of the main scale. That means it has got no zero error. So that's very good. While going for the practicals also, when you find that the zero mark of the vernier scale actually coincides with the zero mark of the main scale, then that's very good. So it is just a rough diagram. So that means there is no zero error. Both the zero marks are coinciding. So first of all, we'll go for the no zero error. Then I'll show what happens when there is a positive zero error or when there is a negative zero error. So for no zero error, if we see initially, how do we measure the length? When we see the zero mark of the vernier scale, the divisions of the main scale just before the zero mark of the vernier scale are taken into account. So it is a very rough diagram. So just for basic understanding, this is not how it looks. It is a very rough sketch. So you see the number of divisions of the main scale or whatever be the main scale reading just before the zero mark of the vernier scale is taken into account. So how do you measure the length? The measurement of the length is the main scale divisions, or more specifically the main scale reading. That is the main scale reading just before the zero mark is the main scale reading. Now just starting from the zero mark, whichever particular mark of the vernier scale coincides with the mark of the main scale is actually considered. So that is the final mark, the mark of the main scale coinciding with the mark of the vernier scale. So from 0 to that we have to take the number of divisions. Supposing in this case first division and the second division just coincides. So the number of divisions of the vernier scale that coincides with any particular division of the main scale, that is taken. So the number of divisions in this case is 0, 1, 2. So 2 divisions in this case, but more in general form, let us write it down as plus number of divisions of vernier scale times the least count. The least count here was 0.1 millimeter. So this is the general formula. In any question you may be given the diagram of the entire instrument and then you will be asked that how much length does it depict, or in some other way the question may be framed. So this was the criteria for no zero error. If it is not mentioned in the question, we have to consider that there has been no such zero error. So the main scale reading just before the zero mark plus whatever be the number of divisions of the vernier scale for which the division of the vernier scale coincides with the main scale, these number of divisions of the vernier scale into the least count. So this is the reading. So this is how a reading is done. So I hope you have understood. You can also note down the formula. This is very important. And this is how we go for the calculation when there is no zero error. So now as you can see, I have drawn a kind of a rough diagram for the main scale and the vernier scale. Now just at the moment when the two jaws of the main scale and the vernier scale are joined, after joining the two jaws which are able to coincide, if we find that the vernier scale, the zero mark of the vernier scale is actually ahead of the zero mark of the main scale, that implies that it is a positive zero error, because it is the vernier scale division is ahead of it. Vernier is ahead. So it is a positive zero error. But just in case if it so happens that the vernier scale division is present behind the zero mark of the main scale, that is in this scenario, this is the negative zero error. That means we can see that the vernier scale division, the vernier scale zero mark is present just before the zero mark of the main scale. So this is a negative zero error. The negative means it is going behind and positive means it is going up. It is actually in front of it. So you can easily remember it, negative zero error or positive zero error in terms of the vernier scale. Vernier scale is ahead, so it is positive, it is ahead of the scale, and vernier scale is behind the zero mark. the zero mark of the vernier scale is behind the zero mark of the main scale, then it is negative. So it is totally with the respect of the vernier scale. Then how do we determine the value of the positive zero error or the negative zero error? For determining the value of either of them, we have to see, first of all, if it is a positive zero error, vernier scale is ahead of this, the zero mark of the vernier scale is ahead of the zero mark of the main scale. Now you will see that which vernier scale division is coinciding with the main scale division. Suppose the third division is coinciding. That is, for example, in this case, if we are asked to find the negative zero error, and if we try to find it out, suppose it so happens that this division is coinciding. So suppose we can observe that this division is coinciding. So what will be the value of the negative zero error? It is asked. Why negative? Because vernier scale is behind this one. So now after this we have to go for searching which division of the vernier scale coincides with the main scale division. We observe that just the third division of the vernier scale, not for the main scale, third division of the vernier scale is actually coinciding with this one. That means because it is negative zero error, so algebraically we put the minus sign, the third division of the vernier scale into the least count. This is the value of the negative zero here. So just the division of the vernier scale times the least count. Now, if we are asked to calculate the value of the positive zero error, and the diagram is shown to us, positive zero error means it has to be ahead of the other one. So now we observe that more prominently the second vernier division, it is already had, so it is positive zero error, okay. Now we observe that the second vernier division is able to coincide with some division of the main scale. That means because it is the second vernier division, so positive zero error means positive second vernier division times the LC. And this is the value of our positive zero error. So it is totally, we have to understand whether it is negative or positive and accordingly put the sign, and then we have to judge that which vernier scale division is coinciding. That vernier scale division VSD into least count. So this is the basic way in which we go for the important calculations of vernier scale or the vernier caliper. So it is very easy, just very much formula based. You have to look at the instrument, see to it, judge it, and accordingly, just like any normal measurement of length, perform it, always keeping in mind that the least count of a vernier caliper is 0.1 millimeter. Now we are moving forward to the micrometer screw gauge. So before I begin with the micrometer screw gauge, I would like to tell you all that in the next video, I'll be making a next video in which I'll be discussing all the numericals of this particular chapter. Numericals based on vernier caliper, numericals based on calculations related to micrometer screw gauge, on simple pendulum, and all the other unit measurement related things will be covered up in that particular video. So, and also the important questions which are required for your examination, so you need not worry about that. As of now, try to understand everything which is being said in details. So beginning with the micrometer screw gauge, it has the same purpose just like a vernier caliper. But in the case of a micrometer screw gauge, we see that we can measure the length with much more precision, with much more accuracy. So in general, you can actually get the diagram of the micrometer screw gauge in your textbooks also. You can go and see it in your school practical labs also. So I have just drawn a rough diagram for explaining it. So just consider it somehow. So in general, this is the thimble just at the back end. Now the thimble has a purpose. The purpose is it is used for rotating the screw. Now just on the circular part, there is a circular scale with marked divisions. In general, The circular scale in general has 100 equal divisions. Sometimes it can also have 50 equal divisions. It totally depends on the screw gauge. Now this is the reference scale also, or the main scale. Okay. So in general, with the help of the thimble only, the screw is actually rotated, and we can actually see that the circular scale here is equivalent to the vernier scale. Just like we had the vernier scale, here there is the circular scale which is getting rotated. Now what is the value of one circular scale division? It is the minimum value which it can measure. It is the minimum length which it can measure. That is the value of one CSD, or one circular scale division. So this is only one circular scale division, means it is the least count. The least value it can count. The least value of length it can measure. So you can actually remember this formula. If you understand this, you can already remember it. That is, 1 CSD is the total pitch by the number of divisions on the circular scale, which is generally 50 or 100. The total pitch, the moment I say this, it is nothing but the linear distance which the screw moves when it is rotated, when the screw head moves, when the screw is rotated. So for the entire rotation of the screw, for the entire rotation of the circular scale, suppose there are n number of divisions in the circular scale. Suppose it can be either 100 number of divisions or 50 number of divisions. So for the rotation of the 100 divisions, or for the rotation of the 50 divisions, whatever linear distance is moved by the screw head, that linear distance equivalent to the rotation of it is actually the pitch. So it is the linear distance moved for one complete rotation of the circular scale. That means the rotation of the total 100 or the 50 divisions that are present on the circular scale. So one circular scale division is the pitch divided by the number of divisions on the circular scale, so that because the pitch is basically for the total number of divisions, for determining the least count, it should be for one particular division. So that is why we are dividing it with the number of divisions on the circular scale. Now how do we understand that in general case, if nothing is mentioned, we consider that there is no zero error. But if it is not said, how do we determine that there is a positive or a negative zero error? It is very simple. If the reference line of the main scale is actually above the 0 point, if the reference line of the main scale is actually above the 0 mark of the scale, is actually above the 0 mark of the circular scale, that means it is a positive zero error. But if this is the reference line of the main scale is below the 0 mark of the circular scale, then it is a negative error. So the negative or the positive zero error is totally measured with respect to the main scale 0 mark. If the main scale is above, okay, positive. If the main scale is below, it is negative. Now other than the positive and the negative zero error, now before moving on to the backlash error, I would like to say that it is the same. The calculation of the negative zero error or the positive zero error is the same as that of the calculation of the vernier scale. That is, for the vernier scale, the way we measured it, that is which division is coinciding, which division of the main scale, which division of the vernier scale is coinciding, that division, in the same way, that division of the circular scale is taken into account times the least count of the screw gauge. So that particular division times the least count of the screw gauge with the appropriate sign, if positive zero error, positive sign, negative zero error, negative sign, that gives us the value of the zero error. So this is how it is done, just like the way we did for vernier caliper, just like as I said, the same way the division of the circular scale which coincides with the main scale is taken into consideration. Now moving forward to the next type of error which is also observed in a screw gauge, that is the backlash error. Backlash error mainly occurs due to the wear and tear. So the basic cause for the backlash error is wear and tear. After continuous use for a long time, it is observed that the screw gauge, even after this thimble is used to rotate the screw is rotating a bit later. It is not rotating just at the point it is being rotated, because it has been used for a long time, and so it is not in having the proper working efficiency. That is only the backlash error of a screw gauge, which is due to the wear and tear, for which even after rotation of the thimble, the screw is not rotating just the moment the thimble has been rotated. So that is only the basic idea of the backlash error. So one more thing I just had to mention, that make sure that when you are going for the physics practical, it is stated that you are measuring the positive zero error or the negative zero error with both the jaws of the screw gauge attached. That means if I show you the rough diagram, this is how the screw part looks like in the front. This particular jaw should coincide with this particular jaw of the screw gauge, and then we start determining the value of the positive zero error or the negative zero error after placing the jaws in contact. So for the measurement of time, while measurement of time we have already seen the SI unit for the measurement of time is second. So now for the measurement of time, here we already have that time can also be used for the measurement of any to and fro motion. That means when we talk about oscillatory motion, the motion of a swing which is swinging, you see that for oscillatory motion it is nothing but a to and fro kind of a motion. It is moving to a certain place and again it is returning back. So it is just like a to and fro kind of a motion. That means only it is a oscillatory motion. It is oscillating between some two particular ends, just like the most common example is a swing, which is moving to and fro between two particular ends. Now if we go for the oscillatory motion, we have to keep in mind what is the amplitude. Amplitude, what is amplitude? When we actually explain what is an amplitude, we find that suppose this is the mean position, where the object, here we are considering a pendulum only. Suppose this is the mean position. Mean position means the initial resting position. So with respect to the initial resting position, it has moved to this maximum possible distance. It is the maximum possible displacement it has undergone in this particular direction. After this it cannot move. After this distance it has to go back. So this maximum distance which it has moved, this is its amplitude. Anything less than this is not its amplitude. The maximum distance which it can traverse from its mean position is the amplitude. So amplitude is same on either sides. That is the maximum distance which it moves on this side. Suppose this is the maximum distance. So this is the amplitude. The maximum distance, which is the amplitude, is always measured with respect to its mean position. Then we have one more thing, which is the frequency of the oscillation. Frequency is generally indicated using mu. Frequency is nothing, very simple, number of oscillations in a second. Okay, so it is nothing but how many oscillations are performed in a second, that is its frequency. So if I say 5 oscillations are observed in 1 single second, that means 5 hertz. The unit of frequency is hertz. So 5 hertz is its frequency. So this is how the number of oscillations in a second, that is the frequency or the mu value, is calculated. Now so we see that due to our surroundings, the amplitude gets affected. That means there is a Damping effect due to the surroundings. The amplitude never remains the same. That means if this is the maximum distance it can move, or this is the amplitude of this particular particle, this amplitude will keep on decreasing with respect to time. After a few moments, we will see that it cannot reach this maximum displacement, it is reaching this. So this is due to the damping effects of the surrounding medium. Damping is actually causing a loss of energy to the surrounding, and due to the loss of energy to the surrounding, which is the damping, we observe that slowly the damping, due to the damping effect, the amplitude is decreasing. So with this we see that if there is a low damping effect, sometimes we also consider in any problem or in a question that this is considered to be negligible, but damping effects are there. So now with respect to the oscillatory motion only, the most common example and the most common thing which we have to study is a simple pendulum. Now for a simple pendulum, we see that what is the total time period of a pendulum? The moment it starts, moves to the maximum possible end, has one amplitude, now returns back. Again, it starts moving towards this maximum possible end, returns back. This motion, this complete motion is its time period. I repeat again, moving from this point to this point, returning back. After returning back, moving from this point to this point, finally returning back. So this entire motion is one time period, and for the calculation of the time period, we also have a formula. T is equals to 2 pi into root under L by G. So this is a very important formula for calculation of the time period of a pendulum. So next I will be continuing the remaining part of time, doing the numericals of unit measurement chapter, including numericals based on this particular equation, as well as on vernier caliper and micrometer screw gauge. So meet you in the next video. Till then, stay tuned. Subscribe the channel if you have still not subscribed for your own benefit. Thank you. All the best.